In 2012, farmers across the U.S. endured one of the worst droughts in recent history. It stretched across the country, damaging crops and forcing many farmers to sell off livestock. According to climate scientists, this is the new normal. Our warming climate has altered precipitation patterns, so in the upper Midwest, it means we're getting lots of rain in the spring and less in the summer. We're having more big storms that dump lots of water all at once and fewer moderate day-long soakers. Navigating this kind of uncertainty may be farming's biggest challenge in the coming decades, a challenge some farmers feel they're ready to take on.
Well, Martin Jaus, and our farm is located about 8 miles northwest of Gibbon, Minnesota, about 80 miles west of Twin Cities.
And I'm Loretta Jaus.
Martin and Loretta Jaus have a 410-acre organic dairy farm in central Minnesota. They farm land that's been in the Jaus family for generations as members of the Organic Valley Cooperative.
The farm was homesteaded by my great-grandfather in 1877. Originally, it was all tall grass prairie and marshland. Over the years, the waters were drained and more land became available to farming. And about the early 60s when the drainage ditches went through, and then with tiling, everything became accessible to farming.
The rich agricultural landscape of the upper Midwest was originally a mixture of prairie and wetlands. Early on, farmers started draining the land to make more room for crops. Today, a dense web of what are known as tiles, drainage pipes essentially, keep previously unfarmable land dry and tillable. But that freedom to farm has come at a cost.
There was a great deal of soil erosion going on when we moved here. I think we came in April, and it was within a month or two when all the ground was still bare and black, and we had one of those 2 or 3 day blows, and I had drifts of soil on my windowsills, and I'm thinking, this isn't good. That was probably what sparked us to start making some of the changes we did.
The Jauses began to add diversity to their farm. They improved and expanded a pasture made up of deep-rooted perennials that could better access soil moisture during dry spells and serve as a sponge when it rains. They put in shelter belts of trees and restored a marsh and a pond. Not only did these measures decrease erosion, but the Jauses found that their farm became more resilient as well, both in times of drought and wet weather.
Our land, it has to be pretty substantial or it really gets saturated before we get runoff. Our land just soaks it in and it retains it. I think it has a chance to permeate into the lower levels of your soil structure, whereas other lands, I don't know if there's much that gets through.
They also found that diversifying their farm has had unanticipated benefits to wildlife, something they care deeply about and something that may be becoming more critical as the climate changes.
'07 was the worst. Pastures were used up by the middle of May already. There was no moisture. The grass is what provides cover for the insects which feed the bluebirds. No grass, no insects. But the bluebirds had these fledglings. They needed something. And in '07, they found it in Nanking cherries in our shelter belts. The bottom of the nest was coated with cherry pits. And that's not a normal food, but because we have diversity in our, they had food available.
So that was a perfect example of how biodiversity builds stability into an operation.
In the same way that diversity on the Jaus farm helped the bluebirds, adding additional crops to a farm system can also decrease risk for farmers. A 2012 study at Iowa State University showed that adding a small grain crop to corn and soybean rotations decreased herbicide, synthetic nitrogen, and energy inputs and increased yield and profits. Adding a fourth crop, alfalfa, shifted the curve even more in the direction of higher yields, although labor requirements increased as well. For the Jauses, building in buffers to risk is one of the answers to the challenges of climate change. Looking to the future and to the next generation of farmers is another.
I worry about our food supply and the stability of the food supply, and climate change is definitely the underlying factor there. The hope is I have an opportunity to work with a lot of young people, and sustainability is very, very high on their radar, and they are already cued in to being politically active and speaking out and educating others on climate change and environmental issues. There is change on the horizon, and I think it's growing, and so I'm feeling very, very hopeful that questions that we can't answer now, I think they're more than equipped to handle.